So A has to be positive because if you haven't noticed, you probably haven't, when we've been factoring, I've given you problems where that A, that leading term or leading coefficient is always positive. So when we go to factor, it's got to be positive. Oh, let me say one more thing about that. So the x squared term is first, then the x, and then the constant. So this would be the quadratic term, the linear term, and then the constant. Has to be in descending order as well as equal to 0. Okay, so number 2 there, first example, is that in standard form? It's equal to 0, and then it's in descending order, right? Okay, so how could we use that zero product property? Because that's our goal. We've got to use the zero product property. It's more complicated now, so we've got to use that. So how might we change this to multiplication of something? Yes, so we're going to factor it. That's what we spent all last week doing, was factoring. So what number is going to go on the top and what's going to go on the bottom?
32 and negative 12.
Yep. What multiplies to 32? That adds to negative 12. So what numbers? Negative 8 and negative 4. So now we write our factors here, and it would be x minus 8, x minus 4 equals 0. So remember, the zero product property said if we have two things multiplied together and they equal 0, that means that either one of them could be equal to 0. So we set x minus 8 equal to 0, and we set x minus 4 equal to 0. So somebody in 4th period asked me, why do I put this line here? And it's just to organize it so that we're showing we're solving this equation for 0 and we're solving this equation for 0. You don't have to put it there. That's something that I just do when I show how to do it. So how would we solve this here? X minus 8 equals 0. Add 8 to both sides. Then we get x is 8. What about over here? Add 4. And we get x is 4. So x could be either 4 or 8. So both of those two answers will work. So what does that mean? What happens if I substitute a 4 or an 8 back into the equation? What happens? We get 0. Who just said that? Nice. Yes. So if we put 4 up here, 4 squared minus 12 times 4 plus 32 gives us 0. If we put 8 up here, 8 squared minus 12 times 8 plus 32 gives us 0, because we just solved it to find the numbers that would work for our x there. Does that make sense? Okay. It is. It's a lot of steps. Yeah. So number 2, is that, or number 3, is that in standard form? Equal to 0. Highest exponent first, then the n, then the number. So what would we do next? We want to factor. We want to take, what's the number that we put up here? 50. Where'd you get 50 from, Asan? That's right. So when you have a coefficient in the front here, we take 2 times 25 to get us that number. So what multiplies to 50 that adds to 15? 5 and 10. So we get n plus 5 times n plus 10 equals 0. What's our next step? Good. So Kira said divide by 2. Really common mistake to forget to divide by 2 and to go straight to this step over here. We can't do it until we divide by 2, because remember, we multiplied 2 by 25 to make our x work, so we could figure out what those two numbers are. So the 2 doesn't divide, so it's 2n plus 5. We slide it to the front. And then 10 divided by 2 is 5. And now what's our next step? Omar, do you know what the next step is? So it's equal to 0. What did we do here? Once we got to this, we went. What's this called when we go from here to here? The property. It's the name of the property. What's the property? Yeah, it's a zero product property. So we're going to use our zero product property now. We're going to take 2n plus 5, set it equal to 0, and n plus 5 equals 0. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we solve each one. So we want to solve. What do we do to solve this here? Minus 5. 2n equals negative 5, then divide by 2. N equals negative 5 over 2. Subtract 5. N equals negative 5. So negative 5 halves and negative 5. So it doesn't matter where you put both the answers. We could have written it as negative 5 comma negative 5 halves. I just try to save myself some time, and so I put them together rather than writing the third one. So that's why we've been spending all that time on factoring, so that we can do things like this. And it keeps coming up throughout the year, not just in this unit. It's going to come up in other units as well. Polynomials, rational expressions. Is anybody still looking at this? Okay. What do we do on number 4? Only 2 terms there, so how do we factor it? What's that? No, it's a standard formula. That's okay. That's all right. Anybody know what we would do here? Yes. That's right. Find our greatest common factor. What is it? K. So we factor out a K. This would become 2. What's this? 2K. And then minus 7 is 0. And then we're going to use our zero product property. Yes, it looks a little different. There's no parentheses around the K, but we still set K equal to 0 and 2K minus 7 equals 0. Does that make sense? Is there anything to solve in this K equals 0? No, it's already solved for us, so that's nice. And then we just have to solve this. 2K is 7, divide by 2. So K equals 0, or 7 over 2. Okay, go ahead and do the U-try. Okay, so you should have gotten answers of 3 and 7. I put the answers up there. Questions on that? Okay, so next example is number 6 in standard form. No, how can we tell it's not in standard form? What's wrong with it? It's not equal to 0. So we've got to get it equal to 0. So what do we do to get it equal to 0?
Minus 6.
Yeah, subtract 6. It's like adding a negative 6. Then we get r squared minus 3r minus 18 is 0. So what would we do next? We want to factor. We look at what multiplies to negative 18. That adds to negative 3. Negative 6 and 3. R minus 6. R plus 3 equals 0. What next? Yes, we're going to use the zero product property. R minus 6 is 0. R plus 3 is 0. And solve them. So we get negative 3 and 6. And for is number 7 in standard form? It's not. How do we get 7 in standard form? That was a little harder. So this is not in standard form, so what can we do to get it in standard form? I'm going to start with subtracting 7r squared. I put it underneath its like term. You do not have to, but it just makes it easier when you go to add them together. And then I'm going to add r. I'm going to put it underneath its like term. And then I'm going to add 5. There's no like term on the left for 5, is there? So I'm just going to put it over on that side plus 5. So we get 0 on the right-hand side. And then how many r squareds do we have? 3 r squared. And how many r's? 8. Plus 5 is 0. So what would my next step be? Ooh. Trace. So I needed to get it equal to 0. So I took everything on the right and I added 5, the opposite. I added subtracted 7r squared and I put it underneath its like term. And then I added r and added r over here. So now I'm adding my like terms to get that there. Good question. So now what do I do next to solve? We want to factor, and what goes on the top? What goes on the bottom? 3 times 5 are 15 and 8. And what numbers work there? 3 and 5. So we have r plus 3 times r plus 5. What comes next? a really common mistake here is students want to use the zero product property. You can't use that yet. What do you need to do next? Divide by 3. So I did hear a couple people saying that. Fantastic. But I just wanted to mention that because that's a very common mistake. So we get r plus 1, and then we slide this 3 to the front, 3r plus 5. Set it equal to 0, and then we're going to use our zero product property. So, Nick, what comes next? Good. So r plus 1 equals? 0. And then 3r plus 5? Equals 0. And then solve them. Yeah. So -1 and -5/3, and would be our answer there. So last one, number 8, what do we do on that one?
Oil.
So we wouldn't want to do a flip-flop, and I know that's a common mistake wanting to do that. What is it we want to do here? Yeah, we just go, it's already in factored form, so we don't need to factor it. What we need to do is use the zero product property. Just set k plus 4 is 0, and 8k minus 3 equals 0. Does that make sense? Again, really common mistake to want to multiply them out, but that just is going to take more time, and then you're going to have to factor it and get back to there. So then we solve. We get k is equal to -4. So k is equal to 3/8 and -4. Okay, I'm going to hold off. I'm not going to have you do the U-try. I'm just going to pass out the worksheet. Somebody can do that for me? Pass out the worksheet.
Hello. Oh, shoot. Turn on.
Okay, that's why she probably not going to Unfortunately, if I don't here, I will -11 and -9. No, it would be 21. No,
22 and negative 1.
22
No, I heard.
21.
22 and negative 1. 22 minus. Then 21.
I changed it. I got 14. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I like this. There's a second. That's why I thought I was like skip the step. I thought way too quick.
Look at wrong. What do you know?
How'd you keep so much money? I didn't ask for
Wait, what happened?
Positive.
This test, you guys are up on the page.
Negative times negative is a positive. Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, it is. That's literally what it is.
Wait, is negative or negative?
I looked at 80. I just like stared at it.
Oh, wait, I just something right here. Wait, I can't look at this.
See, I didn't know if you were asking about it. Yeah, so minus eight.
Yeah. I know.
That's right. She did it. I used it.
No, I know. No way I quit. Negative 8, negative. I don't know if I also.
What did you get? 3 over 1.
You know, she was walking by, Omar, right? She was like, oh, this is serious?
Because you're the no, it does not multiply to that number.
Bro, you were 2 numbers off, bro. It's on you.
It doesn't multiply to that.
But it's just
Why is David sitting up with the wall?
About 0.5.
Yeah, you multiplied wrong. Oh, yeah. I'm on them. I'm like, here, I'm all good. Last year, I only passed one test
Oh,
out of
lots of A's in here. If you received 100%, I'm going to give you candy today.
Can I have candy? Ah, ha, ha. Why do I make these kind of bad stuff?
on the leaderboard.
Oh, wait, bro. You gotta.
What did this guy say?
I'm good.
Yeah, what happened? I don't see a beat up there. You know? Look, he's first on the leaderboard.
I put a negative instead of
I would have beat him to 15.
My own. Yeah, that's why we get a calculator.
I was so confident both times. Sure, yeah, I know. She was like King, she was
I said it's calculated. How do you have an A? Which part was that?
I wasn't cheating, I was just asking. I was literally. I just needed inspiration.
Yeah, I knew that.
No, that's not wrong. That's not wrong. No, it is. Out of what?
Oh yeah, 33. Because I got it.
Actually, I have that shit. Y'all want to wait? Yeah, you want to wait? Y'all want to
So many
Oh, that's so male. That's such a soft guy. Okay.
like Nate posting that on the story. It's like,
Oh, I know. That's such a joke. Dude. His. Oh my god, that's so dumb. Six of them. Hello. And then the fishing license, the practice. That's so crazy.
in your dreams.
Come on. It's like really
And that's huge.
Yeah, mine's like a football.
You gotta come back, bro. That's what like you just take care and you start getting No, whoa. Whoa, you have to do it. We're starting from here, we're gonna navigate into two balls.
I am not perfect.
At least one problem that you've done before you go. So you can do it before the bell rings or after, but I need to check and make sure you know what you're doing.
My brain just doesn't think.
When's the easiest to find? You're my not last year.
18.
I really want to add that one. I do like a what?
26? I mean 36. 36, right?
What? Why do you think right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I had it right.
Well,
I thought you should actually do
I can totally take it.
Wait, doesn't matter what order.
He's writing 18, 36, yo!
The way I don't even know how to do this anymore, guys. I literally don't know how to do that.
I didn't know how to do it before, now I'm like chill.
You got two more. Imagine like this shit collaging.
That's what is that?
Wait, why does that look like those little stars? So much work.
Oh boy, you don't got me here. That's all I have to do.
Fuck you.
That's my water.
Thank you. I don't want it.
Your house. Oh. Shit, bitch.
Are you still? Hey, we have to be studious and do your own work. Do you not understand it? You do? You just don't want to do it?
Yeah.
Just do it.
I just in my own mental math.
Wait, can I see yours for a second? Would you?
That's wrong. Don't tell me that.
Yeah, it's wrong. What do you mean? We literally went over. Negative 36 and 9. 4. 4 times 9 is
What's
72.
72? It's 72 divided by 6. No, no, I mean
16.
no, I mean like is
16.
it possible?
Wait, is it 16?
Like you can't. Are you sure?
Wait, is it 16? Wait, no. Wait, no. Wait, 35.
You think so?
No. 12.5. No, it's
This is wrong.
So there is an answer that is a correction. 11?
Oh.
Hey, Omar.